You ever get that feeling that there's something deeper to who you are? Something beyond your job or your personality or all your relationships? Well, there's this incredible, kind of obscure philosophical term that gets right to the heart of that feeling. So today, we're going to demystify hyparxis. And believe me, it's a concept that could totally change how you see existence itself.
All right, so let's jump right in with a riddle, one that philosophers have been chewing on for centuries. What's the real difference between what you are and the simple, undeniable fact that you are? Just let that sink in for a second. They sound pretty similar, don't they? But the gap between those two ideas, well, that's where this whole journey really begins. Okay, so this whole contrast really boils down to two big ideas. On one hand, you've got essence. That's the what you are. It's your job, your hobbies, your personality traits, all the labels and roles you play. But then, on the other hand, you have existence. And that's just the raw, simple fact that you are. It's the bedrock, the fundamental reality that has to be there for any of that other stuff to even be possible.
So how do we even talk about that pure fact of existence? Well, the ancient Neoplatonists, they had a specific, really powerful word for it. And now it's time to meet the star of our show today, Hyparxis. They called it, beautifully, the summit of essence.
Hyparxis, it comes from the Greek, and it's their term for this fundamental act of being. Look, this is a concept that couldn't care less about your job title or what you had for breakfast. It points directly to the foundational reality, that subsistence, that lets you be anything at all. It's not a description of you, it's your very isness. And that beautiful line, the summit of essence, that comes from the philosopher Proclus, way back in the 5th century. I love this imagery. Imagine all the things you are, your qualities, your skills, your memories. Imagine all of that as a giant mountain. Well, hyperexcess is the very peak. It's that single, highest point from which everything else flows down. It's the most stable, most fundamental way for anything to exist. Okay, and here's a really critical point, so listen up. Hyparxis isn't some static thing, right? It's not like a rock just sitting there. It's a dynamic process. It is literally being in action. Think of it like the engine that's constantly running, the living activity that sustains you from this moment to the next. Yeah, it's the verb of your existence, not just the noun. So, if it's being in action, how does that actually work? Well, the Neoplatonists saw it as part of this awesome 3-part system. It's like an engine that drives reality itself. So let's pop the hood and break down this triad of being.
It all kicks off with hyparxis. That's the unified existence, that solid foundation of remaining in itself. Then, from that stable ground, you get dynamis, which is just a fancy word for potency. It's the built-in power to unfold and become more. And finally, that potential bursts out as energeia, or activity. The actual stuff you do and say and create. And look, this isn't just some dusty old philosophy. This is a blueprint for how your own stable core self creates potential, which then turns into your actions in the world.
Okay, for those of you who really love to dig into the details, this chart lays it all out. You can see how hyparxis lines up with moné, which just means remaining, a state of pure unity. Then you have dynamis, which is protos, or procession. That's when things start to unfold and differentiate. And finally, energeia is epistrophe, or returning. It's the action that brings everything back towards its source. The big takeaway here? Reality is not a fixed thing. It's a constant dynamic loop of remaining, going forth, and returning. Okay, so that's the grand cosmic framework. Pretty cool, right? But what does any of this mean for you and me, right here, right now? This is where it gets really interesting, where this whole concept becomes an incredible tool for self-discovery. Let's go looking for that spark inside, your very own personal hyparxis. And this really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If hyparxis is the absolute peak of something's nature, its most core, unshakable characteristic, what on earth is that for a human being? What is our foundational act of being? Well, believe it or not, the ancient thinkers had an answer for that. And the answer is nous. It's pronounced like nous, and it's the Greek word for the absolute highest part of the human soul. They called it the eye of the soul, or the mind and the heart. Now, this is not your everyday calculating, rational brain. This is something deeper. It's the very center of your being, that point of pure, clear awareness. And this is the connection we've been building towards this whole time. Your nous is your hyparxis. It's that summit of your essence we were talking about.
It's that eternal spark inside of you. It's your direct line to a higher reality. And this isn't some vague, one-size-fits-all idea. It's your totally unique, individual expression of being. It is the absolute core of what makes you, you.
Okay, so understanding all this in your head is one thing, but actually living it, that's a whole different ballgame. So how do we make that shift from just knowing about hyparxis to actually living from that deep inner core? Well, it's all about awakening to your true existence.
And here is the absolute key to transformation. When you realize your hyparxis, when you connect with that inner nous, you awaken to a totally different way of being. It's a profound shift. You stop identifying with all the temporary, changing roles you play and start identifying with the changeless, silent awareness that is watching the whole show.
And you have to get this. At the end of the day, this isn't some intellectual puzzle to solve. It's an experience. It's that direct, undeniable feeling of I am. Not I am a whatever, not I am feeling whatever, just I am, period. It's about feeling that pure existence as a living, breathing process right here, right now. So I want to leave you with this question to carry with you. In your own life, in the middle of all the emails and the errands and the constant thinking, where do you sense it? When do you get a flash of that sheer, simple, undeniable fact of being alive? Because finding that feeling, that's the first step to actually living from your core.